I, Lin Lily, unexpectedly discovered that I am the disposable fiancée of the male lead in an old-school reincarnation novel. Yeah, you know, the kind where the female lead was blind and foolish in her past life, trusted the wrong guy, and ended up killing both the male lead and herself, only to be reincarnated and finally cherish the male lead in a sweet story. If I didn't misread the advertisement. The dialogue after reincarnation must go something like this. Male lead, I'm letting you go. Female lead, husband, hold me. Male lead, what did you call me? Do you know how long I've been waiting for this day? Humph, humph, humph. Unfortunately, I'm the female supporting character, so I certainly don't want to be that brainless female lead. But none of that matters now. I'm currently straddling the male lead's legs, holding his face, and gently kissing him, one kiss at a time. His eyes were filled with desire, but he didn't move. Fu Jiuhan, a man known as Mr. Fu. Though he was indeed 30 years old, why was he called Sir? But all I could do was call out softly, Mr. Fu, kiss me. Fu Jiuhan, though aroused, remained clear-headed. He spoke coldly, get off me. I knew when to back down. I quietly climbed off his lap, stood up, and pulled my skirt, which had ridden up to my thighs, down to my knees. I tidied up my messy wine-red curls and picked up the tie I had pulled off Fu Jiuhan, intending to tie it back for him. He pushed back, taking the chair with him, throw it away. Do you despise me? I held the tie, blinking innocently. Fine, he wasn't falling for that. He glared at me coldly, as if he wanted to freeze me to death. But if it weren't for the redness in his ears, I almost believed him. Men. After I left, Fu Jiuhan's tense body relaxed, and he leaned back in his work chair, his gaze fixed on the door that had closed after I left. Really? I can't resist him anymore. I returned home, collapsed onto the bed, exhausted. I was so tired. Flirting with men was exhausting. From being thrown out by Fu Jiuhan at the beginning to now being able to sit and kiss him, who knows what I've been through. You ask me why I keep flirting with this ice block? It was when I found out I was the disposable fiancé that I decided. Logically, I should be staying far away from the male lead and not getting close to the female lead, but Fu Jiuhan is such a rare type of man. I just love this kind of challenge. The plot hasn't even started yet. The female lead hasn't met Fu Jiuhan yet, and she hasn't been reborn either. Such a huge opportunity is right in front of me, how could I not cherish it? Moreover, why did the female lead hurt the male lead so deeply in her previous life, even indirectly causing his death, yet after reincarnating, she still receives his affection? This Fu Jiuhan is the epitome of a husband who spoils his wife without limits. Sigh, I just can't stand it. Why not take a chance? Maybe a bicycle can turn into a motorcycle, or even a Rolls-Royce. My thoughts were interrupted by the ringing of a phone. Oh no, it's Jenny. No need to guess, she's definitely calling me to go drinking. I answered the call, and an ear-piercing melody assaulted my ears. Jenny's voice was faintly audible, Xiao Qing, come out and play. I glanced down at the tight skirt and black stockings I was wearing today. I can't let this opportunity go to waste, can I? On the other side, Fu Jiuhan was still at the office handling documents. Assistant Alex walked in, his face brimming with excitement. Mr. Fu, there's news about the little girl who saved you back then. Fu Jiuhan's hand paused mid-stroke, and he looked up, his face expressionless. Alex's excited expression turned slightly strange. Mr. Fu, your face. Upon hearing this, Fu Jiuhan reached up to touch his face, his fingertips stained with red lipstick. The image of the woman from earlier, holding his face and kissing him repeatedly, straddling him and rubbing her thighs against him, flashed through his mind. His throat tightened, and Fu Jiuhan closed his eyes. Lin Lily was a temptress. What happened to that little girl back then? Fu Jiuhan opened his eyes but didn't answer Alex's question. Alex dared not ask more, but he knew in his heart that no one else in the world would dare to kiss Mr. Fu's face except for that woman, Lin Lily. That girl is working at Ryan's company now and has a boyfriend, but... Alex hesitated, but Fu Jiuhan didn't have the patience to wait and frowned, saying, continue. But her boyfriend doesn't seem like a good person, Mr. Fu, what do you think? Since it's someone else's family matter, don't meddle. Just tell Ryan to give her a promotion. Fu Jiuhan lowered his head and continued handling the documents. Huh? Alex was taken aback by Fu Jiuhan's words. He had expected Mr. Fu to simply bring the person back. Just as Alex was still in shock, Fu Jiuhan's phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID but didn't answer immediately. After it rang a few times, he finally picked up the call. Speak. His tone remained calm, but there was a hint of something different. Before the other person could speak, loud music began to play. Fu Jiuhan's expression remained unchanged, but his eyes seemed to grow colder. That woman, she went out drinking again. Mr. Fu, I'm drunk. Can you come pick me up? I was a bit dizzy from drinking and leaned against the wall outside the bathroom door. Then I heard the sound of a phone ringing. Beep, beep, beep. Relying on men is useless. I teased him for so long, and he's such an ungrateful jerk. The alcohol woke me up. I stood alone at the bathroom door, feeling depressed, wondering why this man was so cold and heartless. After thinking about it for a while, I sighed and decided to go out and find a designated driver. Just as I reached the door, I bumped into Fu Jiuhan and Alex following closely behind him. Are you trying to surprise me? But I was still happy. I ran over in little steps, wrapped my arms around Fu Jiuhan's neck, and looked up at him. Mr. Fu, you came to pick me up? Fu Jiuhan looked down at me. Maybe it was because I was drunk and looked more beautiful and charming, but he unconsciously swallowed his saliva, just passing by. Hearing that, I couldn't help but blush, and even Alex behind him couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth. Yeah, right, just passing by. The kind of passing by where you specifically asked me to locate you. But I didn't mind. I actually liked Fu Jiuhan's proud and stubborn personality. Then Mr. Fu, can you give me a ride home on your way? Fu Jiuhan nodded and raised his hand to remove my arms from around his neck. I refused, using the alcohol to tiptoe and rub my face against his. Mr. Fu, I can't walk. Carry me. After saying that, I had already prepared myself to be thrown. After all, he had thrown me in various ways before. Who would have thought that he bent down, wrapped his arms around my waist, and picked me up? You might think it was a princess carry, but it was actually how a mother holds a child. My legs were wrapped around Fu Jiuhan's waist, and my face was buried deeply in the crook of his neck. This position was way too embarrassing. Alex's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He silently resolved to apprentice under Lin Lily, even if he had to kneel to listen. Me, there's no need for that. I was carried all the way to the car by Fu Jiuhan. Alex got into the driver's seat and thoughtfully lowered the partition. This partition is the trigger for all sorts of sweet and heartbreaking moments, including some unspeakable scenes in novels. I turned to look at Fu Jiuhan, who took a blanket from the compartment and covered my legs. My gaze shifted to the blanket, the blanket that wraps the female lead afterward. With both the partition and the blanket in place, I had to live up to their intended purposes. As I watched Fu Jiuhan take out his notebook and start working, my mind told me not to push my luck, but my body couldn't control itself. I leaned closer to Fu Jiuhan, closed his notebook when he wasn't looking, and threw it aside before straddling his legs once more. He seemed to not have reacted yet, and I had already gotten close to his face. Upon closer inspection, there were still traces left from earlier. Mr. Fu, you wiped off my lipstick. Lin Lily, don't push your luck. Fu Jiuhan's originally pale skin turned slightly red. Good, he didn't seem like he was going to push me away. I bit my lip, my eyes sparkling with mischief. I'll help Mr. Fu reapply it, a new shade. As I spoke, I planted a kiss on his left cheek, then pressed my lips against his. Whether it was the alcohol on my breath or something else, he seemed completely disoriented, his thoughts scattered as he began to respond to my kiss. He wrapped his tongue around mine, sucking gently, making me almost unable to breathe. Thankfully, his hands remained relatively still. After the kiss, his eyes were slightly red as he looked at me. I gasped for breath, surprised by his expression. He stroked my back, his lips curving into a smile, his eyes filled with desire. Lin Lily, you won. As soon as the words left his mouth, he kissed me again. I felt a sense of foreboding, as if all the advances I had made earlier were being returned to me. I endured Fu Jiuhan's kiss, unaware of the obsession in his eyes. Lin Lily, you've won. Don't even think about running away. Fire. Such a huge fire. Jiang Yan knelt on the ground, staring at the raging flames before her. Just moments ago, the man she loved most had teamed up with her best friend to stab her and abandon her here, setting the place ablaze. Jiang Yan could barely breathe, her mind filled with the image of Fu Jiuhan, the man who loved her deeply, yet she had hurt him the most, and now he lay in the hospital. Mr. Fu, you can't go in, Mr. Fu. Get out of the way. It was Fu Jiuhan. He had come to save her. But wasn't he in the hospital? The door was kicked open, and a familiar figure rushed in. Fu Jiuhan quickly located Jiang Yan and, disregarding the flames burning around him, took step after step toward her. When he reached Jiang Yan's side, his black hair was singed, and his clothes were burned to shreds. He tried to pick up Jiang Yan, but the wounds from her stabs hadn't healed yet, and his chest was already covered in blood. Plus, he had inhaled a lot of smoke, and he finally collapsed beside Jiang Yan. Jiang Yan cried as she tried to pull Fu Jiuhan up. Fu Jiuhan, you can't die. Xiao Yan, in the next life, don't ever meet me again. His hoarse voice nearly tore Jiang Yan's heart apart. Jiang Yan, tears streaming down her face, shook her head wildly, her eyes filled with endless regret. Fu Jiuhan, don't die. I'll listen to you and never run away again. Unfortunately, Fu Jiuhan closed his eyes forever. Jiang Yan hugged Fu Jiuhan, looking at the flames and the crowd rushing in, and slowly closed her eyes as well. Fu Jiuhan, if we could start over again, I would never let you down. Fu Jiuhan, Fu Jiuhan. No. The woman on the bed suddenly sat up, as if she had just woken up from a nightmare. Jiang Yan looked around in confusion. This was the house she had lived in while working. Since being forcibly taken away by Fu Jiuhan, she had never returned. Could it be? Could it be? A bold guess made Jiang Yan's heart race. She picked up the phone by her pillow and looked at it. She had returned 2 years ago. Fu Jiuhan was going to forcibly take her away tomorrow. In the past, she had believed that Fu Jiuhan was the one who had broken her up with her first love, so she had always treated him badly. The worst time was when she stabbed him in the heart with a knife. But Fu Jiuhan had always presented his true feelings to her, allowing her to trample on them. Now that she had returned to this moment, she would cherish Fu Jiuhan dearly. Similarly, she would not spare Kevin and Wendy, that pair of scummy men and women. I, Lin Lily, have successfully seduced the male lead. When I woke up, I was on the large bed in Fu Jiuhan's villa. I was a bit dazed, only remembering that some man had kissed me repeatedly yesterday as if seeking revenge. When I entered the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror, I was wearing only a white shirt that barely reached my thighs, with the buttons undone, revealing a few small freckles on my collarbone. To be honest, if I hadn't felt it, I would have thought Fu Jiuhan had done something to me while I was asleep. Dressed like this, I couldn't possibly go out. Luckily, Fu Jiuhan still had some conscience and left me a new set of clothes. A loose t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers. Does this suit me? When I went downstairs, I finally understood the meaning of this outfit. An elderly grandma Fu, dressed in a cheongsam with white hair, was sitting in the living room, smiling at me. You're the young lady from the Lin family, right? Come here, let Grandma Fu take a look at you. Help. I've only been here for less than a day and I'm already meeting the parents. I immediately behaved like a little chick, walking over to Grandma Fu of the Fu family. Hello, Grandma Fu. Grandma looked at me with such love in her eyes that it seemed like it was about to overflow. She took my hand and sat me down. You're the fiancé of our family's Yo-Yo. Yes, that's right, Grandma Fu. I nodded quickly, then realized. Yo-Yo? What? Does Mr. Fu have such a cute name? I tried to suppress my laughter, but I couldn't help wondering what Fu Jiuhan, with his icy expression, would say if he called him Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo is the youngest child in the family. Grandma suddenly adopted a serious expression and began explaining Fu Jiuhan to me, but finding a life partner has always been a challenge. He's almost 30, and after finally getting engaged to your Lin family, the child refused no matter what. Then, unexpectedly, he called me yesterday saying he wants to get married. What marriage? I didn't know about this. I wasn't informed. I fired off 3 questions in a row, wondering if this was how fast CEOs moved. Grandma Fu didn't seem to notice the shock in my eyes and continued, "Little Lily, Yo-Yo may not have dated before, but he's definitely loyal to people. Don't look down on him for being boring or not romantic." No, how could I dare to look down on him? I worked so hard to get him, I can't look down on him. There's nothing like that, Grandma Fu. Mr. Fu has been very good to me. Except for the times he's thrown me around, he's been pretty good. Grandma took out a small wooden box from the side. When she opened it, it was a jade bracelet, the standard accessory for every heiress in a wealthy family. Should I go through the "it's too expensive, I can't accept it" routine? Grandma slipped the jade bracelet onto my wrist. It was just the right size. Speaking of which, the female lead Jiang Yan in the previous life apparently smashed this bracelet to pieces, nearly driving Grandma to her grave. Later, Fu Jiuhan spent a fortune to have it repaired. It's so beautiful. No wonder only Yo-Yo is worthy of it. I blushed from the compliment. No, it's Grandma Fu's bracelet that's so beautiful. After chatting with Grandma for a while, we prepared to have lunch. After finishing lunch, Grandma handed me a thermos. Yo-Yo never eats when he's working. Take this to him and make sure he finishes it. This was no trouble for me. I patted my chest and said, "No problem, Grandma Fu. I'll make sure it's done." I arrived at the Fu Group headquarters with ease, then headed to the top floor to the president's office and opened the door. Peeking inside, I saw Alex reporting to Fu Jiuhan. Upon hearing the sound, both pairs of eyes turned toward me. I waved the lunchbox in my hand and smiled. "Mr. Fu, it's time to eat." Fu Jiuhan looked at me first, then gave Alex a subtle nod. Alex understood immediately, quickly tidied up his report, and left. I can finally eat. Thank you, Miss Lin. The grateful look in Alex's eyes as he looked at me is something I'll never forget. But it's my Yo-Yo who really made the day unforgettable. I walked up, placed the lunchbox on the desk, and then let myself fall into Fu Jiuhan's arms. Fu Jiuhan held my shoulders, his gaze falling on my exposed collarbone, then on my lips, which were slightly chapped from his kiss. I wrapped my arms around his neck and whispered in his ear with a mischievous grin, "Yo-Yo, it's time to eat." Sure enough, I saw the expression on Fu Jiuhan's face crack into a smile. Finally, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Lin Lily." Fu Jiuhan hugged me tightly, trying to threaten me with his tone. "Don't call me that like Grandma Fu." I innocently blinked my eyes and reached out to touch his red ears. "But Mr. Fu, Yo-Yo is so cute." I had already noticed earlier that Fu Jiuhan's ears were his most sensitive spot. Fu Jiuhan's face turned red, unsure if it was from being annoyed by me or from being touched for so long. He finally managed to utter two words, "Let's eat." "Do you want me to feed you, Mr. Fu?" I tasted the joy of pushing my luck and couldn't resist trying again. "No." "All right, but Mr. Fu, can you let go of me while you eat? Is it that nice to eat while holding me?" Though he did seem to be enjoying his meal. "I'm sorry, miss, you can't go in without an appointment." A woman's voice suddenly came from outside the door, followed by the sound of high heels. "Let me go, I want to see my husband." The door opened, and Jiang Yan tidied her hair, wanting to appear in front of Fu Jiuhan in a more presentable manner. "Wait, sis, did you think you looked presentable just now when you were yelling at the door?" But I was still in Fu Jiuhan's arms, and he was trying to feed me a meatball. The female lead and I looked at each other. I saw her expression change from joy to shock, and finally to a mix of sadness, helplessness, and a hint of hostility that only I could see. However, I found Lisa, who was shaking like a leaf behind her, more eye-catching. To be honest, the aura of the legitimate wife emanating from Jiang Yan made me, the legitimate fiancée, feel quite uncomfortable. I watched her ever-changing gaze and felt that she wanted to rush over and slap me, the sudden third wheel. On the other hand, Fu Jiuhan didn't react much, he just wanted to feed me the meatball. I looked at the meatball and my clever little brain worked overtime. "I don't want this, I want shrimp dumplings." That's right, I don't care about my rival, the man is already mine. I satisfiedly ate the shrimp dumplings handed to me, taking the opportunity to enjoy Jiang Yan's expression, which looked like she had eaten a fly. It felt pretty good. After feeding me the shrimp dumpling, Fu Jiuhan finally looked up at Jiang Yan and asked Lisa, "Does this lady have an appointment?" Lisa, who had been trembling, shook even more violently. Mr. Fu, this lady won't stop saying she wants to see you. Fu Jiuhan, seeing the real Fu Jiuhan, Jiang Yan's heart nearly stopped. In that moment, she felt like she was seeing the man who had once loved and pampered her the most. But, his gaze toward her was so unfamiliar, and the woman in his arms was so glaring. Miss, do I know you? Fu Jiuhan looked at her seriously, scanning her up and down to make sure he hadn't seen her before. The question made Jiang Yan's breath catch in her throat. Her eyes welled up with tears, and she furrowed her brows in disbelief. I'm your wife, but now she and Fu Jiuhan were complete strangers who had never met before. She had always wondered why Fu Jiuhan liked her, but she couldn't bring herself to say it. After a long silence, I decided to take the initiative and pulled my hand away from where Fu Jiuhan was holding it. Mr. Fu, you're hurting me. Do you think I'm really in pain? In reality, I was showing off the bracelet I just got today. Fu Jiuhan immediately noticed my bracelet, gently pinched my wrist, and looked at me with tenderness. Did Grandma Fu give you the bracelet? Yes, I said proudly, shaking my hand. Mr. Fu, isn't it just the right size? No one knew I was rubbing salt into Jiang Yan's wound. That jade bracelet was like a scar on her heart. Jiang Yan stared at the jade bracelet, almost as if she could see through it. She remembered this bracelet, it had once been shattered by her hands. That was also the first time Fu Jiuhan had ever lost his temper with her, but she hadn't cared at all, even hoping he would grow to despise her. Seeing Jiang Yan remain silent for a long time, Fu Jiuhan let go of my wrist and said to Lisa, if this lady has no further business, Lisa, please see her out. Lisa stepped forward, bowed slightly, and gestured for her to leave. Please, miss. Jiang Yan seemed to have lost her thoughts, following Lisa out the door. Once outside the company, she slowly knelt down and burst into tears. Today, she had come to the company just like she had in her previous life, hoping to lure Fu Jiuhan back to her. But she had waited for so long without seeing him, and in her desperation, she had rushed to the company. In her previous life, the first words he had spoken to her were, from now on, you are my woman. But the Fu Jiuhan of the present claimed not to recognize her. The contrast was too great for her to accept. There was also this woman who had suddenly appeared. She had never seen her in her previous life, yet here she was, wearing the jade bracelet symbolizing the wife of the Fu family. Why did Fu Jiuhan look at her with such familiarity, just like the way he had looked at her before? This was the most heartbreaking part for her. She felt like she had been replaced. Lin Lily, who the hell are you calling a replacement? No. She couldn't be replaced. Fu Jiuhan was her man. In this new life, she couldn't lose him again like she did in her previous life. Jiang Yan wiped her face and stood up, her expression firm. At that moment, I was still in Fu Jiuhan's arms. I gently tapped his throat with my finger. Mr. Fu, you really don't recognize that lady just now? Fu Jiuhan caught my mischievous hand, remained silent for a moment, then spoke, I know her. She saved my life when I was a child. Even though I knew the reason, I still felt a pang of jealousy. I pulled my hand away angrily and said, oh, a life-saving favor deserves a lifetime of devotion. You've been single all this time because you're waiting for her, right? As I spoke, I tried to break free from his embrace. Hearing the jealousy in my voice, Fu Jiuhan lowered his head and laughed, then hugged me tightly. Don't move. Damn it, he looked so handsome when he laughed, so I stopped. Of course, I still felt a little uncomfortable. I moved closer to Fu Jiuhan, our noses touching, and said to him in a pouty voice, explain. As I spoke, I touched his nose. I did have that thought before. Fu Jiuhan cupped my face with his large hand, looking sincere. So sincere I wanted to hit him. Seeing my expression, he suddenly leaned in and kissed me, but I couldn't resist the efforts of a little temptress. This little temptress was very pleased with that explanation. Then Mr. Fu kissed the little demon again. That night, after accompanying Fu Jiuhan to watch a movie, I finally returned home, wondering where this man had heard that girls liked watching movies at night. Before leaving, he pressed me into the seat and wanted to kiss me. Indeed, men are different when they're in love. I yawned, lay down on the bed, and soon fell into a deep sleep. In a daze, I opened my eyes. Everything was dark. After my eyes adjusted, I realized I was barefoot on a fur rug, still wearing my dark red silk nightgown. The air was filled with the smell of alcohol. Suddenly, a loud bang startled me into screaming. "Who's there? Where are you?" A familiar voice came from the darkness. I listened carefully. It was Yo-Yo's voice. Why was he drinking alone at midnight? Could it be because I didn't send him a goodnight message before going to bed? That can't be. I walked toward the darkness and saw Fujiohan lying on the ground. He didn't look good at all, wearing a white shirt with his tie loosely tied around his neck, reeking of alcohol, holding a bottle of wine in his hand, and surrounded by empty bottles on the ground. His face looked haggard, and he looked at me with a confused expression. I suddenly realized that this might not be Fujiohan. More accurately, it wasn't the man who had just hugged me and demanded a goodnight kiss. This must be the Fujiohan from my previous life. The one who had become so downtrodden after Jiang Yan ran away. He seemed to be regaining some clarity, glaring at me with anger in his eyes. "Who told you to come here?" I was speechless for a moment, unable to say that I had traveled through time. "If it was Ryan who sent you here, you should leave before I lose my strength and throw you out." Fujiohan lowered his eyes, his words sounding like he was giving me a chance to redeem myself. However, this truly brought me back to the first time I flirted with Fujiohan. Since heaven had given me such an opportunity again, how could I possibly let it slip away? I bent down and sat next to Fujiohan. He glared at me, probably thinking, "You woman, you're so bold." "Of course I'm bold, that's who I am, Lin Lily." I rested my chin on his shoulder and leaned close to his ear. "Mr. Fu." Fujiohan felt a sweet scent wafting directly from his ear to his lower body. His body stiffened, and even his hand holding the wine bottle went limp. No, he should only react to Xiao Yan, the woman he was with. But he didn't reject this woman's closeness. For a moment, Fujiohan forgot that he should have thrown this insolent woman out. Not being thrown out made me bolder. I reached out and hugged him from the side, pressing closer to his ear. "Mr. Fu, your ears are so red." The next second, Fujiohan swept his arm wide, flipped his body, and pinned me down on the carpet. My nightgown was thin, and with him moving me like that, it was almost exposed. My skin was snow white, and Fujiohan's gaze on me was dark and unclear. Do you know I'm married?" His eyes narrowed slightly, seeming to anticipate my reaction. I casually played with Fujiohan's loosened tie. "I heard Mrs. Fu ran off with her first love." "Mr. Fu, why bother obsessing over one woman?" Hearing my words, Fujiohan gave a self-deprecating smile. "What can I do? Every part of me tells me I should love her that way." I felt a bit down, thinking, this is the setup I can't escape. In the entire plot, Fujiohan is just a character who spoils his wife to the extreme. Compared to the female lead, Jiang Yan, he's more like a tool for revenge. My yo-yo has also suffered a great injustice. Thinking this, I took advantage of his distraction, pulled off his tie, and kissed his lips. After the kiss, Fujiohan froze, probably not expecting me to be so sudden. I wrapped my arms around him and said cheerfully, "Yo-yo, you can't be so blind in your next life." Before Fujiohan could react, I was already gone. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my comfortable bed. The room was back to its cold atmosphere, and Fujiohan was still holding me in his arms. A woman had just kissed him and called him Yo-Yo, telling him not to be so blind in his next life. I met Jiang Yan again after work. Yes, I do have a job. She was standing on the other side of the street, wearing a white long dress and canvas shoes, while I was wearing a black bodycon skirt and high heels, creating a stark contrast. She stared at me intently, indicating that she had been waiting for me. I tilted my head in confusion. Was she going to hand me a check and tell me to leave Fujiohan? Crossing the street, I walked over to her. Her face was pale, and her eyes betrayed no hint of hiding her hatred for me. She really did look like a wife confronting her husband's mistress. "Miss Lin, would you mind chatting for a moment?" Jiang Yan seemed genuinely intent on having a serious talk with me, of course, if I could ignore the fists she was clenching. I shrugged indifferently, sure. Anyway, if it came to a fight, she wouldn't stand a chance against me. Jiang Yan took me to a nearby cafe. As soon as we sat down, she cut straight to the chase. "Can you leave Fujiohan?" I ignored her, ordered a black coffee from the waiter, then turned to Jiang Yan and asked, what would Rose like to drink? Not even a single punch landed on me, and Jiang Yen felt I wasn't taking her seriously. She glared at me with her big eyes and began to assert her claim, Miss Lin, Fu Jiuhan is mine. But I still didn't react. I turned to the flustered waiter and said, then bring this lady a cappuccino. After the waiter left, I finally looked at Jiang Yen. Rose, you're really joking. I'm Mr. Fu's fiancée. How could you say that? Jiang Yen was momentarily speechless. After all, she wasn't Mrs. Fu yet. But I had underestimated the thickness of her skin. Fu Jiuhan likes me. He did in his previous life too. Upon hearing this, anyone with a normal mind would probably think Jiang Yen was mentally unstable. I looked at her as if she were an idiot. Maybe the female lead really does rely on the male lead and the protagonist's aura. No wonder she was so easily defeated in her previous life. Even after being reborn, she hasn't improved much. Rose, you should go to the hospital and get your head checked. But does she even know that in her previous life, I kissed Fu Jiuhan? Does the man from her previous life even remember me? Why do I suddenly feel like I'm playing both sides? Just as I was thinking that, the man with the nickname Yo-Yo called. Hello, Mr. Fu. I answered the call and caught the fleeting glint in Jiang Yan's eyes. The man's cold voice came through, Little Vixen, haven't you finished work yet? I'm done. I stopped looking at Jiang Yan, took the black coffee from the waiter, and took a sip. This is so bitter. If Jiang Yan weren't here, I'd almost want to put on a mask of pain. Mr. Fu, black coffee is so bitter. Don't drink it next time. Fu Jiuhan remained silent for a moment before saying, all right. Are you at the cafe? I'm outside your office. Yeah, I'll come down to meet you. After saying that, I hung up on Fu Jiuhan. I looked at Jiang Yan, who must have mistaken the cappuccino for me, stirring it vigorously. I smiled, finding her a bit amusing. Rose, if there's nothing else, I'll be going. Jiang Yan's eyes immediately turned red, perhaps a special ability of the female lead. She came up and hugged my arm, pleading, Lin Lily, I beg you, give him back to me. I was speechless. If that's the case, why didn't you cherish him back then? Did you have to wait until this lifetime to start? There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Rose, do you want Fu Jiuhan because you love him? I spoke without holding back, getting straight to the point. Her grip on my arm loosened slightly at my question, and I took the opportunity to pull my arm away and continued, in the end, it's just because Fu Jiuhan is powerful and influential, and you want revenge, right? The last sentence, I whispered into her ear, exposing her true intentions. She looked at me in disbelief. Rebirth was her only ace up her sleeve, but unfortunately, it was useless. I maintained a polite smile on my face. If Rose is okay, I'll be going now. I turned and walked away without looking back at Jiang Yan. As I stepped outside, I immediately spotted Fu Jiuhan's car parked nearby. After getting into the car, Alex greeted me, and I nodded in response. Then I looked at Fu Jiuhan, who was typing on his computer. Who were you with? Fu Jiuhan looked up from his computer, asking casually, but his tone carried a hint of displeasure. Spending time with Fu Jiuhan lately, I'd almost forgotten he was a domineering tycoon, a crazy, obsessive, cold-blooded, violent one, basically a psychotic tycoon. I didn't feel guilty, after all, it was his fault she was with me, I was with Rose. Jiang Yan? He paused for a moment before finally fixing his gaze on me. Why are you with her? I answered honestly, she came to me, begging me to leave you. You dare. He yanked me into his arms, clamping his hand around my jaw, but didn't hurt me. I smiled up at him and said, I didn't agree to her, Mr. Fu. For some reason, a flash of regret crossed his eyes as he released my chin. Don't leave me, okay? No, this isn't what I expected. I was ready for a kiss filled with anger, but instead he's pulling this? Fine, I'll do it myself. I placed my hands on Fu Jiuhan's legs, stood up, and kissed his lips. I worked so hard to get Yo-Yo, I can't just let her go to someone else. My answer finally calmed Fu Jiuhan's racing heart. He accepted my kiss, quietly reaching out to hold my head, reclaiming the initiative on our lips. His slightly cold tongue slid into my mouth, and he tasted the flavor of black coffee. He pulled away from my lips slightly. Little Lily, actually, I don't like black coffee. My eyes grew hazy as I followed his words. Then what do you like to drink? Just as his kiss was about to land again, he answered, I like the black coffee in little Lily's mouth. The bitterness was tinged with a sweetness that made him unable to resist. Me? Remember how Grandma mentioned in the earlier chapters that Fu-Jiuhan called her to say he wanted to get married? Well, we did, to be precise, Yo-Yo did, move up the wedding date. And I was just there to receive the news. I asked Fu-Jiuhan why he was in such a hurry. Mr. Fu, you know I'm almost 30. Oh, you're so old. I suddenly felt disgusted. A long silence made me wonder if I had said something wrong. He sighed and nodded. Yeah, that's why I need to keep a close eye on my 25-year-old little demon, so she doesn't go seducing others. I'm starting to suspect that Fu-Jiuhan has changed his persona. His temper isn't as domineering as before. I didn't continue the topic and looked down at my stomach. Do I need to lose some weight? Otherwise, I won't look good at the wedding. I pinched the fat on my stomach. Lately, I've been eating too well following Fu-Jiuhan's diet. Fu-Jiuhan also pinched it, as if weighing it. It's okay. It wasn't all for nothing. I think I've fallen into a trap. The next second, Fu-Jiuhan pulled me into his arms and said affectionately, Little Lily looks better a little chubby. Then Yo-Yo isn't allowed to tease me for being fat. I won't. I'm not blind. He leaned down and kissed the top of my head. Not blind, that sounded familiar. Before I could think about it, he said, so, you can't complain that I'm old either. It seems that Mr. Fu still cares about his age. But I won't complain. Jiang Yan came to find Fu-Jiuhan after I left. I don't know why she still thinks she has a chance. I'm afraid my slap didn't wake her up. Jiang Yan didn't wear a white dress this time. She wore the same outfit she had on when she first met Fu-Jiuhan. Fu-Jiuhan looked at the woman across from him, her eyes filled with adoration, and his brows furrowed so tightly they almost knotted together. If it weren't for wanting to resolve this issue once and for all, he wouldn't have agreed to meet her. Lisa said Jiang Yan had been coming to the company frequently lately and had been chased out by security several times. Rose, I've never been one to waste time. If you have something to say, please say it quickly. He raised his wrist to glance at his watch, indicating he didn't have much time. Jiang Yan's previously mesmerized gaze froze. In her previous life, Fu-Jiuhan had always begged her to talk to him, never once implying he didn't have time for her. You weren't like this in your previous life, Jiuhan, Jiang Yan spoke with a trembling voice, as if accusing a heartless man. Fu-Jiuhan's lips twitched as he rubbed his forehead. Then tell me, what was I like in my past life? Jiang Yan was speechless. She had expected Fu-Jiuhan to refute her, but now he was willing to listen to her. Her mind scrambled for words, and she hurriedly wiped away her tears. Jiuhan, whether you believe it or not, you were very indulgent toward me in your past life and even married me. Even if I treated you badly, you still indulged me. You said you were obsessive, cold-blooded, and violent, but you only indulged me. You also said. As she spoke, Jiang Yan began to sob uncontrollably, as if moved by her own words. Fu-Jiuhan's eyes were deep and dark. Obsessive, cold-blooded, and violent, those were indeed his traits. You said you were bad to me in your past life? Jiang Yan's sobbing paused, and she began to explain, No, Jiuhan. In my past life, I was foolish. I trusted the wrong person and even harmed you. In this life, I only want to repay your kindness. A trace of cold mockery flashed in Fu-Jiuhan's eyes. Jiang Yan must think he's a fool. If he didn't know about the past life, he might have continued to pamper her as she wished, and the outcome might have been happier than the previous life. Unfortunately, he knew. Moreover, the happiness of being a tool for revenge couldn't compare to the happiness of being little Lily's yo-yo. Fu-Jiuhan looked at Jiang Yan, whose face was streaked with tears, his gaze dark and icy. It reminded her of the time she had run away and been caught, when Fu-Jiuhan, reeking of alcohol, had looked at her like this and said, I won't be blind anymore. Fu-Jiuhan spoke, Rose, if what you say is true, then I must have been mentally unstable in my previous life. However, I'm more inclined to believe that Rose is mentally unstable. You should go to the hospital for a checkup. My little Lily knows a good doctor. Jiang Yan's heart grew cold once again at Fu-Jiuhan's words. He still didn't believe her. Why wouldn't he believe her? Lin Lily. Jiang Yan's mind instantly flashed back to the woman she had only met in this lifetime. It must be her. Lin Lily. She stole her Johan. It's all her fault. If she just disappeared. This thought spread like poisonous venom throughout her entire body, eventually consuming her heart. Fu Jiuhan immediately saw the madness in Jiang Yan's eyes. It seemed like he needed to arrange a few bodyguards for little Lily recently. Fu Jiuhan arranged a few bodyguards for me to prevent Jiang Yan from harming me, but it seems like Jiang Yan didn't have time to harm me before she was sent to a mental hospital by her family. She was always talking nonsense about being Mrs. Fu and refused to go to work. It's quite an achievement for a female lead to end up in such a state. Seeing that everything should be fine now, I begged Fu Jiuhan not to arrange bodyguards for me anymore. Having 4 or 5 black-clad men following me around all day makes me look like a gangster boss. Fu Jiuhan hesitated for a moment before finally agreeing. Now the most urgent matter is our wedding. Fu Jiuhan wants to give me a grand, lavish wedding with a global live stream. I possibly, don't need a live stream. I know this is his first wedding. In his previous life, he forced Jiang Yan to marry him, and they just rushed through the registration. He places great importance on this wedding, wanting to be involved in every detail, and wants me to be involved too. I suggested we just get the registration first. Can you believe it? The legendary Jay, who remains unfazed even if a mountain collapses before him, held his ID card and household registration book in one hand and my hand in the other, standing nervously at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, swallowing hard. I tried to pull his hand and walk inside, but he suddenly pulled me back and asked me seriously, "Little Lily, are you sure you've thought this through? What's wrong with you?" I was about to touch his forehead, but he grabbed my hand with a sincere expression. I know I have a bad temper. Everyone says I'm stubborn and scary. I'm afraid you'll grow to hate me. He took my hand and placed it on his chest, as if to tell me his true feelings. But little Lily, I've been seeing a psychologist for you. I want to change for you, to give you a normal relationship. I admit that Fu Jiuhan's heartfelt words made me tear up, and no wonder he's been so restrained lately. I wiped away my tears and buried my face in Fu Jiuhan's chest. You jerk, you have to pay for the makeup I did today. This certificate probably can't be issued today. I don't want to take photos with 2 puffy eyes. Fu Jiuhan gently patted my back, trying to comfort me, but his words were firm. I'm giving you one chance to leave me, little Lily. If you've made up your mind, I'll let you go. I clung tightly to Fu Jiuhan's waist, wanting to curse him out, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Fu Jiuhan, are you deliberately not wanting to marry me? I finally managed to get you, and now you're saying such nonsense. Fu Jiuhan held me tightly in his arms, overjoyed. Little Lily, little Lily, little Lily. Forget it, he'll never let go. He'll never let go for the rest of his life. Maybe I should switch psychologists someday. In the end, we got married. Fu Jiuhan coaxed me inside, and because of me, the staff thought I was being forced by Fu Jiuhan and almost started a legal lecture on the spot. I was frantically touching up my makeup beside them. Unfortunately, my eyes still looked a bit unnatural on the marriage certificate. Back home, Fu Jiuhan held an egg to my eyes while apologizing. I'm sorry, little Lily, I'm sorry. I glanced at him. This man was clearly about to burst into laughter. There wasn't a hint of remorse. I suspected I'd been deceived again. I'll never believe a man's lies again. I'm currently in the hospital. Fu Jiuhan is holding me in his arms, while Jiang Yan is being rushed into surgery. Just a short while ago, Jiang Yan, wearing a hospital gown and holding a knife, charged toward me as I had just finished work for the night. I reacted instinctively, grabbing her arm and shouting at her, "Jiang Yan, have you lost your mind?" She looked at me with disheveled hair and a expression, screaming hysterically, "I've gone mad. As long as you die, as long as you die. What if I die?" I tried to reason with her. If I die, you'll go to prison. What? Do you want to be the female lead in a tragic romance novel? She didn't respond, probably with only one thought in her mind, to kill me. Since it was nighttime and there was no one around, I didn't know who to call for help, and Fu Jiuhan was busy with work. Forget it, I'll handle this myself. I'm just the female lead, after all. I looked around and saw the stairs not far behind Jiangyan. I pretended to struggle with her, using her momentum to push her backward until we were almost at the staircase. I've never been a saint, so the final step had to be even more ruthless. Jiangyan fell backward as I expected, and I took the chance to break free from her grip. I raised my eyebrows at her in contempt as she lay on the ground, then called 120. Try fighting me again, even if you're reborn 100 times. This is what it feels like to be a villainous female supporting character? It's kind of satisfying. When Fu Jiuhan arrived, I had just finished talking to the police. He trembled as he pulled me into his arms, little Lily. I don't know why, but seeing Fu Jiuhan made me feel so wronged that I couldn't help but cry, Yo-yo. I'm here. Fu Jiuhan took a deep breath and hugged me tighter. Are you okay? I'm fine, but Jiangyan might be in trouble. Fu Jiuhan ignored my last sentence, bent down, picked me up, and said, as long as you're okay, let's go home. It was already very late. I lay in his arms, looking at him. Fu Jiuhan was silhouetted against the light, as if he had stepped out of a painting. He didn't say a word the whole way home, his expression somber. He carried me to the car, but I wasn't behaving myself and slowly moved to sit on his lap. Yo-yo, I gently brushed my nose against his handsome jawline, then slowly traced down to his chin, my lips landing perfectly on his throat. My heart fluttered, and I pressed my lips against that prominent spot. Fu Jiuhan was startled, tilting his head back and pressing his hand against me, little Lily. I looked up at him, just like the countless times before when I teased him, Mr. Fu, does that feel good? He had never answered me before, but this time he reached out and placed his hands on my waist, then pushed forward forcefully, forcing me to kiss his Adam's apple again. Wife, kiss me again. I didn't kiss him. All the pleasure of teasing him was gone. Jiangyan woke up in the hospital, lying on the bed with a sense of helplessness welling up inside her. All she wanted to ask was whether the heavens were playing with her. Why had she been reborn only to watch another woman take everything she once had? Was this a punishment? A punishment for her past life. What Jiangyan didn't know was that she would come to regret the things she had done in this life for the rest of her life. Rose, we're the police, here to investigate. When I received the news that Jiangyan had been arrested, I was trying on a wedding dress with Fu Jiuhan. Alex rushed in and whispered something in Fu Jiuhan's ear. Fu Jiuhan nodded to indicate he understood, then raised his chin toward me and said to Alex, how does your wife look in this? Alex immediately switched to his assistant mode, flattery mode. The lady is naturally beautiful and as lovely as a flower, she looks good in anything. Fu Jiuhan frowned deeply, making Alex panic. He hurriedly asked, Mr. Fu, did I say something wrong? No, Fu Jiuhan stepped forward to adjust the small diamonds on my collar. It's just that seeing Mrs. Fu so beautiful, I suddenly don't want to go live streaming anymore. Alex, I should be under the car. So he hasn't given up on the live stream yet. Alex made up an excuse and ran off. I glared at Fu Jiuhan. Jiangyan is in prison? Yes, her parents said she has mental illness, but the hospital checked and found nothing, so she's still in prison. Fu Jiuhan held my face and explained. I rested my arm on his shoulder and thought of a question, isn't she your savior? I've already repaid her debt. Even with my life. I lowered my eyes, still feeling sorry for Jiangyan. Such a good opportunity, yet she chose to limit herself to a man. Fu Jiuhan was displeased with my silence and gently pinched my face, saying, enough, Mrs. Fu. You should be worrying about our wedding now. At this point, I perked up, don't you dare do that global live stream. All right, I'll listen to my wife. Fu Jiuhan agreed, his eyes filled with affection. He really knows how to pamper someone, no wonder Jiangyan was so obsessed with him. On the day of the wedding, I sat in the makeup room. Jenny, dressed in her bridesmaid's gown, sat beside me and remarked with a touch of emotion, who would have thought you'd actually snagged Fu Jiuhan? I nodded proudly, this is just payback for being abandoned. Do you know how many girls want you to start a class? Jenny looked envious, tapping my arm, teach me, please. I straightened the crown on my head and said disdainfully, you, Miss Jean, should settle down. You don't need me to teach you. Jenny huffed in protest, do you think Mr. Fu is everywhere? Oh, right, my yo-yo is the only one. It's all about giving your heart sincerely. That's right, I used all my heart to win over Fu Jiuhan. Sigh, as I said before, Mr. Fu is truly one of a kind, Jenny sighed, glancing at the time and shoving the bouquet into my hands. Come on, beautiful bride. I held the bouquet, walked arm in arm with my father, and took step by step toward the altar, where I saw Fu Jiuhan standing not far away. He smiled as soon as he saw me. Forgive me for thinking about tomorrow's trending topics, whether the top search would be never seen Mr. Fu smile this happily before. The rest of the ceremony proceeded as usual. Fu Jiuhan took me from my father's hands, held my hand, and led me to the priest. Under the priest's questioning, we both said, I do. As we were about to kiss, I looked at Fu Jiuhan and whispered in a voice only the two of us could hear, Yo-yo, have I ever told you that I love you? He froze instantly, his eyes flashing with various emotions, unable to speak. I placed one hand on his shoulder and cupped his face, smiling as I expressed my love to him. Lin Lily loves Fu Jiuhan very much, truly. I was giving him the greatest sense of security, and Fu Jiuhan's eyes filled with tears, a rare sight for me. Fu Jiuhan also loves Lin Lily very much, truly. The next moment, he kissed his cherished treasure with devotion. Lin Lily will always be Fu Jiuhan's light, forever and ever.